Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I am joined by the ever-so-lovely and talented...
James the Wildcard.
How's it going?
Not bad. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. A lot of crazy things are going on in the world of nerdoms, I would say.
In a way. But before we talk about the pretties, right? Release scheduling. And I'm referring to GW here because that's really the only company that pumps stuff out on a regular basis. Not saying other companies don't put stuff out, but they have
like
so
a
many,
rabbit.
Yeah, but they have so many factions, they gotta constantly put stuff out. So, you know how I am. I like people to get their rules.
Yeah.
If there's an addition, there's a major update. Therefore, people should have updated rules for their army, faction, whatever.
Yes.
And that's why I don't like the slow pace of Forge World's books, but I do understand it because it's Forge World. It's not like it's the main company, but...
Yes, and it's not like when we get rules from them, they're like horribly broken or terribly poorly done or anything like that.
Yeah, and we don't really get that from GW either.
Yes,
but
well, let me correct that. We don't get a book from Forge World and then a week later get a FAQ that changes a good chunk of the book.
No, and to be honest, we don't really get that too much with GW. We don't really get that really unless there's a huge War Gear change. Like, for example, Space Marine War Gear change, and therefore Dark Angels needed that FAQ 2 years before they got it.
Yep.
But anyways, I don't like when people have to wait forever for rules. But
yes.
To put into perspective, the Harlequin Codex came out, March 7th around there?
Roughly. And
then around March 23rd, or around the late March, Khorne came out as a codex.
Yep.
Not even 20 days after Harlequins. And then, you know what? What is it? April 11th, Skitarii dropped. And that's barely 2 weeks after Khorne dropped. Like, they really stepped on the heels of Khorne.
And next week is Eldar.
And my problem is the release is too quick. We're barely having time, and even, I don't mean just Skitarii, I mean for all the stuff that's come out, and I forget what came out before Harlequins and when, to be honest. I do.
I think it was Necrons.
Yeah, but I forget when. And, my point is, even if that was, let's say, 2 months before Harlequins, which I definitely don't think it was, this is too quick. We barely got to really digest and let Harlequin sink in. Then Khorne came out, and Khorne's thunder was stolen horribly by the Skitarii. It's like, Khorne dropped on the Skitarii! It's like, right away. And it's like, what I'm saying is, you take this release schedule, and instead of it being March 20, whatever, that Khorne came out, let it be, 1 extra week. No announcements for new models, new codex, whatever. Just an extra week between releases, I would be much more happy about, because you really didn't get a chance to digest anything about Khorne because all of a sudden we got swept up in Skitarii.
Yeah.
And
I think
it's just too... I get it on the one hand. We want to make sure everybody's updated for this current edition of 40K. Sure. But, if Eldar... if nothing for Eldar was announced the week it was, but announced the week after, I think everybody would still be fine and okay. And same thing with Skitarii. If the first thing wasn't announced until the week after the first announcement, still would have been okay. I just think to give consumers a chance to process it, because to be honest, in thinking about this, I completely forgot Necron's got a codex. Because of the whirlwind of stuff coming out, I completely forgot they had an updated codex.
I do agree. I sat there going, if I was a dude who played, let's just say, I play a bunch of armies, I play Eldar, I play, kind of Skitarii, it's turning into Traitor Guard because of Skitarii coming out.
Right.
Dark Angels, Demons now because Demonology tricked me, and Chaos Space Marines. If this was a situation where it was the Zenich book, then the Dark Angels, then the Imperial Guard, then the Eldar, I'd be like, oh crap, I don't have money to buy junk.
Right.
And I would, in a sense, also kind of feel left out, because I'm like, GW, you're not giving me a chance to earn money to possibly pay for stuff.
Right. And like I said, on the one hand, I mean, I like that I'm complaining about this. Like, it's not a drought. It's, oh my God, stop, too much, slow down, everybody, break.
It's a little too much. It's a surplus of
Right.
new releases.
And like I said, I really did genuinely, and I remember saying, oh, they got a cool scythe model when we talked about the Necrons coming out. And then the Whirlwind happened, and then like a week ago I was like, oh right, Necrons got a codex. Like, I completely, and you know, I like the Necrons, and I would maybe like to check out the codex, but I completely forgot it happened because of the upswell of Harlequins, and then Demons came out, and that was all like, ooh, what are they doing here? And then before that before you could even finish your plate of food, another plate happened. And it's like, whoa.
Yep.
Whoa. The appetizer and the main course are supposed to not come out this quick. It's like, I'm not saying that's how it is with those codices. What I'm saying is that one's not an appetizer, one's not the main course. But Skitarii, as much as I'm a fan of it, completely stole the thunder from Corrin Demonkin.
And to be honest, the way the Skitarii book is written, it sounds like it's an appetizer to another codex.
I have it. I own it. I own the Ruststalker because I figured for better or for worse, I want the bells and whistle version. So, and also because the other collector's editions I've ordered, they didn't have the fancy packaging with the objective markers. I wanted to see what that was all about.
Yeah, I almost did it with the Eldar one, but then I was like, ooh. My biggest problem with it is it's the same price as the Necron one. But the difference is the Necron one came with individual printouts of every unit and the formations, and the Eldar one does not. So I'm like, I'm paying the same price, and I'm not getting any printouts.
Well, let me put
Betrayal!
Let me put it to you this way. The Ruststalker edition's price, way too high, considering it really is the tip of an iceberg.
Yeah.
And I did it anyway, because I figured for better or for worse, I want to be able to be full tilt into this, you know? Whether it crashes or it soars, I want to be full tilt into it, because I'm such a big mechanical fan. Now, my issue, I don't like multiple books for one army, but at the same time, I will prefer that over not getting the full experience. And with this, my theory is this, and I'm sure people have a similar theory, but my theory isn't that this is the tip of an iceberg to come. Based on the way certain fluff parts are written in this codex, and the way certain rules and war gear are, it feels like 40K was working on a big mechanical codex, and for whatever reason cut out the Skitarii bits and the fluff associated to it, and then gave us this codex. So it's not like, man, I wish there was more from this. It's like, man, there's got to be more, but we're not getting it yet. And to be like, to quote one line in this fluff, okay, and it's nothing crazy. It's not spoilerific or anything. But this is on the Soldiers of the Machine Gun page, which is like page 3 essentially. If page 1 is the first bit of fluff, it doesn't matter. But the paragraph starts off like this: the Skitarii legions do not fight alone. But this is just the Skitarii legions fighting alone in this codex.
You just ruined everything. Spoiler, you ruined everything. I'm never buying this codex now.
But I'm like,
thank you.
But I'm like, seriously, you're gonna put that in the book that the Skitarii don't fight alone? Okay, page the army list. Looks like nothing but Skitarii here.
Skitarii.
And it makes mention how they fight alongside the Legio Cybernetica. I'm like, well, where is their stuff? But anyway, that's the rant. That's my rant.
Supposedly with that there has been redirects for another book called Cult Mechanicus.
Right.
So that may be the Cybernetica.
Maybe, but
that's why I'm like, you know what? I like the Skitarii. I'm gonna hold back because all these rumors say there's more to this. I'm gonna wait to see what else comes out.
Like, I'm not gonna dive headlong into collecting them. I do really want to pick up a kit to build some Vanguard and some Rangers because they look cool. They look cool.
They do look
I
awesome.
want to build some because they look cool. End of story. But, like, I am waiting to see what rises from the depths, because this definitely feels like the tip of the iceberg. And as I stated in our previous podcast, it makes no sense to split them up like this. They are integral parts together, especially when you say in the fluff of the Skitarii that they don't fight alone.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But the fluff is really cool. They go into Forge Worlds, and you know what? For me, it's all about Mars. Praise be to Mars, right? Because, like, all the other Forge Worlds are cool, but nothing beats
Mars is the homeland.
Nothing beats Big Daddy Mars.
Yeah.
But Big Daddy Mars is actually kind of bland in description in comparison to some other Forge Worlds. And that might be because we know so much about Mars already.
And it might be they're saving them for Cybernetica.
Right. But, like, here's an example of a Forge World that's so cool. The planet's called Lucius. It's a Forge World that's a hollow planet. It's hollow and didn't fall apart, and at its core, At its core is an artificial sun that the Mechanicum will be quick to claim the rights to if they are pressured by questions. Oh, yeah, we definitely built it, but secretly they have no idea how it works. So, like, right there, that's a really cool world full of fluff potential, right? It's a hollow planet with an artificial sun at its core. How awesome is that? But like
that is interesting.
And then you compare it to Mars, and their description of Mars is like it's a vast repository of knowledge, but it's eclectic and disorganized. Well, thanks. And there's more to it than that. But it's just also we've heard so much about Mars, and like you said, maybe they're holding on for it. But
you know, we got a book all about Mars.
We got that.
'Cause it's all about the Mars.
Yeah, we have that Mechanicum book from the Horus Heresy, which is all super in-depth. But
and it's super awesome.
It is. It's actually really good. But what is cool, and I got it as a poster, but whatever, it's also in the Codex, is there's a picture of the planet Mars. And, you know, I never really give it too much thought what a planet looks like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, so that's what Mars looks like. It's cool. Like, because you hear a description of it having the iron ring, basically an artificial ring around the planet made by them, and it being covered in multiple, like, forged temples and stuff like that, and having barren wastelands. But to see it drawn, it's just like, so that's what that is. Okay. And it just screams Dr. Wily's castle, however, because one big continent looks like a skull. You know, Dr. Wily from Mega Man loves his skulls. And
he does like skulls.
That got me thinking, if they're not going to do like Maverick or Robot Masters feel with Farsight and his 8, which basically feel like Robot Masters. Like, oh no, time to tackle the Farsight stage or time to tackle the Ovessa stage in Mega Man. The other way to do it is with the Mechanical. So get on that, GW. I want a Mega Man clone. but it's not bad. Like, and the rules are very solid in terms of it's only 7 units, but it's very solid for what it is. And it not having an HQ, because it doesn't. And I'm saying this for people if they were interested, because the one thing GW doesn't do too well is let you know what you're getting into with a codex.
Yeah.
It's a codex, buy it. And you look at the page count, and then you get to think maybe it's not going to have too much in it. It's only 80-page codex. But I'm telling the Felix Gamers here and now, in case you did not know, because you did not do any looking into it, but you're vaguely curious, there's 7 units, and there's no HQ. I'm okay with no HQ because of this army-wide special rule called like directive, like the some type of thing that they have. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, the doctrine.
Yeah, the doctrine imperative thing. The doctrine imperatives are a really cool way to and it makes sense. Why have your HQ leader at the front lines when you can just via Wi-Fi be connected from space?
Yeah, I did hear story that that there's a bunch of things going on with that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go too much into it. It's not as crazy as it sounds. It's actually very basic, but in its simplicity, there's, niceness. It's tidy. Mm-hmm. But essentially the idea is that tech priests who are basically the leaders of the Skitarii forces are up in space, all safe and sound, watching the battle, gathering data, analyzing it, and then bolstering their forces as best they can. Great. Yeah. Fantastic. I like it. It works. It works for any force, not just the Mechanicum, but the idea of not having an HQ present on the battlefield, I'm okay with that. It would have been kind of cooler if you could spend points on him and to have certain special rules, nothing too crazy, but there's nothing like that. However, the fluff in the Codex, this is the case where the fluff actually kind of hurts the army. Because there's fluff pertaining to what's called overseers of the Skitarii. And they're referring to them as commanders who lead the Skitarii cohorts. And cohorts, you could basically equate that to like a company.
Okay.
So the way they describe them is saying, if they come from the vanguard stock of stuff, they have certain personalities and certain they melt. Not they melt, but they exude so much radiation that they basically poison the land they step on.
Yes.
Which would be a cool special rule thing, right? And if they come from the Rangers, they have that stalker capability, but they're also kind of paranoid. And if they come from the Imperial Night Worlds, they're very noble, but also prone to anger. They have little quirks, which is cool.
Yeah. And
it really builds up for sounding like a commander. They describe them as commanders. So through that little fluff blurb, which is only 3 little paragraphs, you are kind of, if you're not looking at the entry and you don't know there's no HQ, you're kind of expecting there to be an HQ called Skitarii Overseer.
Yeah.
The fluff builds up for that, and it doesn't deliver, which is the only downside to the fluff, really, when it comes to fluff versus the army rules, because the whole Doctrina Imperative thing is fine for no HQ, but the fluff built up an HQ that's not there.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get too much ranty on it. Overall, I've read the Codex. I've enjoyed it. It definitely feels like it's the tip of the iceberg, and it better be because there's so much more than Mechanicum than this. Like there's so much, and they imply that in the fluff, and they imply that through the War Gear, which is very cool. But I want more. It's a shame it's got to be a second book, but I want more. And if GW ever tries to, back out of that, people got to just point to Forge World and go, they did it. And they're basically you, so why can't you do it? It's like,
yep.
But like the release schedule is coming too fast. Basically, like I would prefer just one week extra before releasing stuff and announcing stuff, so everybody can really get into it. And like you said, if you play multiple forces, it gives you time to really think about picking up that codex right away or waiting. And if you're kind of new and you're still deciding and stuff, you have this whirlwind of stuff. If I was a new player and I was doing the research, I'm like, okay. Harlequins came out. Cool. Oh, cool. They announced another book. Cool. Oh, cool. They announced another book. Cool. Oh, cool. They're updating another book. I would never buy anything until they stopped announcing stuff.
Yeah. It's a little crazy.
It is.
What they're doing.
It is. But what I do like that they do with the Eldar is it's still the Eldar.
Yes.
But I like how they call it Craft World. It sets up the possibility for non-Craft World Eldar books in the future.
Yep. And
it won't happen.
Stories I've been hearing are pretty interesting. Some of it sounds a little wish listy, but a lot of it is coming from reliable sources, so it may be possible. I did pick up the new White Dwarf, and I'm interested to see that now all Wraithguard and all Wraith Cannon weapons are Strength D, and the Wraith Knight is now a gargantuan creature.
Which, let's face it, the Wraith Knight thingy stands as tall as a knight. It should get something equal. I mean, so should the Riptide, but maybe they will eventually. But
possibly they may be their new.
And you know what? People are barking up the tree about Strength D. Strength D isn't as strong as Strength D used to be. Number one.
Yep. And let's also not forget the Guard only have a 12-inch range.
Yeah, and also let's not forget, those D cannons in a couple editions ago were not overpowered, but were crazy powerful. Yeah. They were always crazy powerful weapons where basically if you rolled a 6, the guy got sucked in the warp and he was dead. End of story.
Yep.
Like, that's how it used to be a really strong cannon. And then it kind of got like, it's just a cannon that's decent. And now it's strong again, and it's strong in a way that's simple and streamlined. So,
yes.
And it's not game-breaking, just like, the Radium Giselle isn't game-breaking either. I mean, the idea of it is that it's representing something strong, and if you go crazy with that, you have very short range, and you're missing out on all the aspect stuff, you're missing out on other stuff, so really, it's not that bad, but I will say, GW, when we were talking about a plastic Autarch, we meant a kit that lets you have options.
Yeah.
But I will say this is a lot easier to convert than a pewter or a resin model.
Yes.
Because of the way it is put together, the arm, you could do some arm swaps and some stuff. It's not the best, but it's a step in the right direction.
Yep. And we've got some pretty cool things going on with what we heard. I heard that rumor is going around. Like, again, remember everyone, these are all rumors and supposed people who have the Codex.
Yeah.
And all that jazz. So, rumor is that the Wave Serpent finally got toned down to more manageable levels.
I have a question.
Yes?
When wasn't it manageable? I never was like, oh no, Wave Serpent, I'm doomed!
It was supposedly, apparently because of the range, the strength, and the laser lock rule, it was pretty nasty if you spammed a lot of them because you could take out a lot of stuff turn one with them.
I guess, but I never once felt threatened by just pure, like Wave Serpent. I was always like, all right, shoot it.
Like most most sensible men, you know to just shoot it.
Yeah. In fact, so does Peppy. Just shoot it, Fox.
Because, like, everyone's like, what, Wraithguard with D weapons? Oh, that's so broken. I'm like, dude, they're 12-inch range, they don't have an invode save, they're armor save 3, you just shoot your anti-tank at them and they die.
Or, heck, you just shoot enough las guns at them and they'll die.
Yeah, they'll die.
I've proven that with Terminators.
Yes, you have proven that you can fail 2-up saves.
Yes. And not even being overwhelmed with it, just 5 of them. But but at the same time, I can make 3 5-up invuln saves in a row and save one Terminator and have him Falcon Punch a Tyrant to death. But, like, not 2+ save, what's that? But, seriously, just shoot it, Fox, is what I can say. Star Fox 64 really did have words of wisdom. Just shoot it.
Just shoot it. And, so now the Wave Serpent supposedly his range is 24. It's a one-use shot, and if you use it, you lose both rules for the shield. It's now a strength 6, and scatter laser's no longer laser lock, so you can't twin link it.
Whatevs, but like, you know, it's cool. I mean, and to the Elder camp who cry havoc that they lost their love child, essentially.
You got D weapons.
You got D weapons and stuff. You're getting other stuff. Plus, it's still a decent transport. It's not like it's not unusable.
Oh, it's now going to be getting a 5-up invuln save with holo fields, and it can turn those pens into glances on a 2+. So that's not that terrible,
right? So like, if anybody is really complaining, it's like it's not an unusable vehicle. It's still going to be very viable, and you're going to have to maybe kind of sort of alter your tactics a smidge.
And what the Aspect Warriors rumorly have is great. Banshees now everything I'm saying right now is all rumor. I don't own a codex. I'm just going on the internets and reading what people are saying. So, take a big old bag of salt and pour it over your head as I say this.
Exactly. And my recommendations is for people who are fans of stuff that comes out is to avoid rumors as much as possible, just so...
Especially if you're really, really hoping for something.
Yeah, because you don't want to be disappointed. And you know what? And it's like the age-old thing with a movie. A movie can be a fantastic movie, but if it gets overhyped so much, you're going to have too high of an expectation. And it's going to look bad in your eyes, and you're going to be disappointed, even though it's a solid production. So, basically, head to the hills.
With that, let's start getting hype!
Exactly.
Supposedly now, in the rumors, the Warlock Conclave, as they're calling it, instead of the Warlock Council, or whatever, same names, different thing.
Yeah.
They no longer, when they're in the Conclave, they no longer generate warp charges independently with each other. So it's not a squad of 5 is 5 warp charges. Instead, the number of Warlocks determines the psychic mastery level of the squad. 1 through 3, they're a mastery level 1 for warp charge generation. 4 to 6, they generate 2 warp charges, and 7+, they generate 3.
Which is cool.
If you have any issues with that, just get a bunch of Guardians and scatter them out, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
The Howling Banshees, the Banshee mask now causes fear, -2 leadership, and it makes them immune to Overwatch, and they add 3 to their run and charge distance.
Okay.
X-Arches now have 2 wounds across the board, which makes no sense why the Warlock doesn't, because most Warlocks used to be Aspect Warriors, and they're like X-Arch level, but whatever. Dire Avengers now can either Overwatch at a +2 at a BS2, or get the counterattack special rule. They get to choose. Fire Dragons add +1 to their damage chart table result.
Okay.
Warp Spiders, which have one of the 3 coolest. They got them and the Hawks and the Dark Reapers. I think got the best of the best here. Warp Spiders still get to do their fancy stuff, but in the opponent's shooting phase, if they're targeted, you may perform a warp jump just before the target fires. If they end up out of line of sight or out of range, that unit cannot fire at anything else that turn, to represent where'd they go?
Which is, which is cool, because Warp Spiders, that's been in their fluff, that they basically just blink around constantly, and you saw it in Dawn of War 2's intro.
Which was so good.
So, it was a really good representation of a Warp Spider Exarch being all awesome. But,
yes.
And I could definitely see them getting that. The Howling Banshees, I'd be really surprised if they got all that. Maybe some of it, but I don't think they'll get it.
I would say the -2 is the one that they won't get, because then what's the point of having fear?
Well, maybe it's a fear at a -2 penalty to the thing. And
probably.
But I
because
think
some of these people don't write properly. They don't use proper grammar.
But I would think the whole immune to Overwatch is a little bit ridiculous, considering it's already ballistic skill 1 shot anyway. You know, I would see that one probably not making it in, but other stuff making it in, because it's not like Overwatch breaks them. So,
no. It's one thing. Like I always liked them being able to ignore Overwatch, but like I won't be. It'll be one of these things where it'll be like, oh man, they should have this, but I'm not going to be like, well, put you back in the bin.
And also, I mean, and what they could do is tie it into, let's say, a check. Like that check could be, and if they fail that, the unit can't Overwatch. But it shouldn't be innate. You know what I mean? It should be part of the oh my god, I'm scared thing. You know?
That works.
Like I think that'd be a lot fairer, because there are some things that make a specialness out of Overwatch, and just to flat out say nope is not cool.
Yes.
Like balance wise, but I think it would be definitely cool with a check, because sometimes it can work, and sometimes they scream in the face of something, and the guy goes whatever, you know, like an obliterator squad or something. They'll be like, I'm from the warp, you got nothing on me.
Yeah. Now also, Dark Reapers, they get to re-roll misses on anything that's a flyer or a skimmer, and they ignore jig saves.
Fair enough, you know,
which they used to ignore jig saves, and they need an anti-air unit.
Now, I have a question about that.
What?
Skyfire. Does that make that weapon only fire in the air? Can they still fire on ground?
They cannot. In order to fire at a ground unit, they need to have intercept.
Okay, because it's just
Skyfire allows you to fire at flyers and skimmers only. Everything else you count as ballistic skill 1, I believe. And then intercept allows you to intercept a dude coming in, or fire at anything at full ballistic skill.
All right, no, I was just curious, because I'm just curious with Skyfire, because I see it in certain situations, I'm like, that doesn't make too much of a sense.
Yeah, because like a good example is like with the Dune Crawler, only the autocannon can fire at ground troopers, so it's kind of a toss. Ooh, do I fire the gun at that flyer or hope my missiles kill it? And it's the same with flyers. If flyers fire at a flyer, then all their weapons now have Skyfire. So it's to prevent them from being able to blow things out of the sky and rake the ground with fire. They can only do one or the other.
Which doesn't make any sense, because flyers do that. Like, now. They do that, so... But that's how the whole Skyfire thing works. Right, but it's just the whole... I wasn't sure about certain things, and the whole flyer thing really never made sense to me, because that's what flyers do today. So...
Not in the 41st millennia. We don't know how.
Fair enough.
And the Scorpions have Stealth and Shroud, and their Mandablasters wound on a 4-up regardless, saves allowed. Kahandras is a 2-up and no save allowed.
Because he's a big bad.
Yes, because he's awesome. And people there's weird wording with them. Like, it's like they have Stealth and Shroud until the fire of combat. And I'm like, wait, what?
It probably means they have Stealth and Shroud, but as normal, it wouldn't apply in the assault phase.
Yeah, which I'm like, why do we need clarification? But then some people word it as Stealth and Shroud may fire in combat. So I'm like, so what are you trying to tell me? Are you trying to tell me that they have the regular rule of Stealth and Shroud where it's only shooting because we somehow for Eldar need to clarify it's only shooting? Or can they shoot their pistols in close combat? Which one is it?
I don't know, but like the aspect wars are getting cool stuff, and I hope Shining Spears people go, oh right, they're usable, because
they do get something in this new one.
Oh yeah, I mean everything's gonna get stuff, but it's just my point of, I've always found Shining Spears interesting because they and the War Spiders didn't really have a Phoenix Lord.
Yes.
Whatever, we don't really know what happened with the Phoenix.
We know what the happened with the Singing Spear one, with the Shining Spear one.
My point
he ran into the warp.
Yeah, but we don't really know what happened to him.
We don't know if he's dead or alive.
Right, he's kind of like the White Scar's Primarch. We don't know if he's dead or alive. And with the Warp Spiders, we don't know if he's now like a collective hive-mind entity that assists his Warp Spider brethren, or if he's just chilling out somewhere. We have no idea. So I found them cool because of that, and I'm always looking at the Shining Spears going, you guys should be used more, but I can see why you're not. But you're like, especially for the army I've seen Jet Bike and Sam Hain style Eldar lists before, and they still don't include Shining Spears. I'm like, but you're like the Jet Bike extraordinaire. Like, you should be in there, at least one squad of you.
This new one they have 4-up cover saves, and their Exarch rerolls wounds versus monstrous creatures and rerolls the pen. And their spears now, they have a 4+ cover save if they move in the previous turn. Their lance is 6 inches, strength 6, assault 1 lance. And in close combat, it's +3 strength when charging. Both are AP 3.
That'll be, you will see. But, like, and also, can the Swooping Hawks fly like a flyer?
Okay, the Swooping Hawks now, if they move over a flyer, every model gets 1 special attack that hits on a 4+, strength 4, AP 4 haywire. They move 18 inches.
Okay, that's fair, because the Swooping Hawks always in their fluff was basically zipping around, flying around like Iron Man. And they had stuff in Apocalypse to be dealing with flyers. And the Swooping Hawks, that was their thing. That's what made them probably one of the most unique infantry units. So
their fluff for anyone is they're always been described as everyone going, whoa, zoo, 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 bunch of flyers, bunch of dudes with wings flying past their cockpit, and they're going, that was weird, and then the dude in the back goes, what's that beeping sound, before they all explode.
Yeah. Like,
is usually how they're supposed to work.
The big thing with that Aspect Warrior group is that they're fighting a big war. There's flyers, and instead of engaging in dogfights, which they can do with their own flyers, the Swooping Hawks that zip in like Iron Man, plant bombs or shoot them down. And and it was cool in their fluff because really there's not any other infantry type unit that's been described in 40K with similar attributes. I mean, Assault Marines can jump around pretty high, and they can jump from orbit and land. That's cool, and they can kind of glide around in the process. But there's not really anything you can do rules wise for that. But, like, nothing was real, like, there's a flyer. All right, Johnny, engage thrusters. Let's go after him. Rocket manning it. I mean, come on. So, I'm glad that's got something.
Correction on my thing with the Helling Banshees, it's the mask is fear and denies Overwatch. The Exarch minuses 2 from leaderships, supposedly.
But it's
this is the latest description of the Striking Scorpions. It's stealth, shroud, until fire or assault. So they lose stealth or shroud until the shooting phase or the assault phase. So when do they get this?
Well, it probably means they have stealth and shroud until they shoot.
Probably.
So, like, if they open fire with their weaponry, then they don't have stealth and shroud. Which is fine, because chances are they're doing that before assaulting. So.
And Exarch during a challenge compares initiative values, and he gets a +1 attack for each point of initiative he is better over his opponent.
That's cool. The thing that with the Striking Scorpions and the Howling Banshees is you could have both in your force, and because they both fill very different roles. They
play differently.
They have very different battlefield roles. And as long as they keep it that way with whatever they give them, that's great, end of story. And with the whole, if they have stealth, shroud, whatever, until they shoot or they assault, my only hope is that, maybe it takes a turn, but they get that back, Yeah. If they lost for the game, it'd be kind of like, well, that was a one-hit wonder.
So it's like, as you just described that makes it sound like they're going through the woods. Pew, 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 pew. What's that? There's a bunch of bug people! And then they all run into the woods and put a leaf in front of their face. And the dude's just like, what are they doing?
No, I mean, like, it should be like they should assault them, and then whatever happens if they shot whatever, the next turn they don't have it, but the turn after that, to represent their field craft, they can meld back in, like, supernaturally. Or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, the way it's described now, it's like they forget how to be stealthy once they're spotted.
Exactly. And it's just like, and I just hope it's not for the entire game, because it really doesn't make any sense at that point. And it's like, well, we revealed ourselves to the enemy. Yeah, but sir, we tortured them all. Yes, but now they know where we are. We could easily take a couple steps to the right. No,
it's over.
It's too late.
Over.
We now must march boldly into the enemy. Sir, it doesn't make any sense.
They know, they earned it, they are the better men.
But you're not making any sense. Don't you argue with me, who's the Exarch?
Don't quote semantics to regulations to me. I was on the board of determining what color the cover of that book of regulations is. We kept it gray.
But it's just like, who's the Exarch here? Who's been doing this for how long? Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like... That would be funny but sad.
Supposedly, also now, Spirit Seers no longer do the troop choice trick, which, in my opinion, means the Iaden Codex is still valuable.
It'll be valuable until they take it off the shelves.
Which they did.
Yeah, but I mean, but by that I mean until they say, hey, it's no longer valuable. Like, if anything, I could see they took it off to then come with a updated version.
Possibly.
But,
get an FAQ to account for what's new.
Until the errata or the hard and fast from GW, through Black Library's website, which is annoying, tells us that it's no longer a legal, valid method of play.
A good thing, actually, would be, as you sit there, if their FAQ, even if it hasn't been updated, is still up there, then they're still usable.
There's still chance. There's still hope.
Because they're still usable if they're still FAQing it. Right. So if until that FAQ disappears,
then you can question.
They're still usable.
I mean, you could always contact them and ask, but
yeah.
And if enough people do, they'll update the errata. Go, dudes, it's still usable, basically. But I mean, and it should be taken away from the basics to give the Iaden something. You know, it's like. Because that's what they do, and you should have to. Obviously, you're spending more money, but you should have to play in their style if you want to have those rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. But overall, I'm interested to see what the Eldar Codex does. I'm interested that it's called Codex Eldar Craft World, and
that we could get extradites.
Maybe. Well, it'll never happen, but the theory is there. The possibility is there. The actuality is it won't work.
But the theory is still sound.
Exactly, and you know. You can look at that and be concerned, but the Blood Angels Codex, full title is Codex Adeptus Astartes Blood Angels. So you don't have to think like, oh no, this isn't going to give us everything you want in Eldar. You're going to get everything you want in Eldar, except Harlequins, and I find it funny, and at the same time I'm glad they actually say, dude, there's no Harlequins in this Codex. But a Harlequin.
Yeah.
Which they shouldn't have to say, but I'm sure somebody go, where are my Harlequins? And it's like, do you not see the gleaming Harlequin Codex?
This isn't fair. We lost the Harlequins. It's like, to be honest, and to that response, when people go, we don't have any Harlequins, I'll be like, have you read the Harlequin book? It's 10 times better than what we got in the Eldar Codex.
Exactly. And there you go. You have your Harlequins back. So yes, again, you have to buy a second book, but whatever. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but if it gives us something better than what we had, which is just like a unit entry and that's it, then I warm up to that aspect, you know? If the Harlequin Codex was really just a whole bunch of fluff and then just the Harlequin troop entry and that was it, I'd be like, what was the point? But it's more than that, so that's good.
Yes, it is a lot more than that right now.
Right. So, and that really helps out, and it really gives you the opportunity to play a Harlequin Heavy / Harlequin Troop pure list. Obviously, you're going to have to do some count stats and some finagling, some coloring with your painting, but the options there are way better than it was.
And I will also say I like the new Farseer model a lot. The new biker one that they have.
It's cool. The thing I like about it is less the model and more the bike.
Yes, the bikes. Okay, for anyone who got into 40K a little later and is always wondering why all Eldar players are complaining about the Eldar jet bike, that jet bike is 20 years old. And GW even outright says in the White Dwarf, they served us well for 20 years, but they need to be updated. And we're like, yeah.
Right.
When their helmets, when their heads look like the second Ed Guardians. People were wondering, people thought that the bikers just had a fancy helmet.
The Eldar bikers were indeed dated, and 20 years dated at that. And keep in mind, fearless gamers, those models are older than a good percentage of players out there.
Yes.
So,
yes. Like, here's a good to be honest, they were old when I started playing, and I started playing back in 3rd.
Yeah, so there's a reason why people clamor for certain models getting update. Like,
yep, the Space Wolves.
Yeah, they needed it bad. And
they need the Dark Angel ones. We need a lot of the Space Marine based special characters need to be updated because they look so tiny.
They do, in particular the Terminator guys. The Power Armor guys, not so much. And to be honest, the Dark Angels didn't really need much updating. What we needed was the characters, period. You know, we didn't have a bio model, period. So like, where's the model? But
the only two models now that need really updating is Ezekiel and Azrael, because they just look tiny compared to the new models.
Well, I have the Azrael model, and I've had him next because he's fully painted and everything. I put him next to models, and he's not actually. He seems a bit slenderer, but he's not like proportionally out of proportion. It looks like he's in really masterly crafted artificer armor.
Okay.
So Ezekiel needs a bit of an update because he's very chunky, clunky.
Yeah.
Which is how all old sculpts were. If you had a robe, it was just a flat bottom on them. It wasn't a three-dimensional robe. So he has some of that chunkiness to him. His posing is fantastic.
Oh, yes.
His posing
GW, if you ever update his model, do not change his pose.
Right. This is the exact opposite to what everybody said about your Lamarte's model, which is fantastic now. But the old Lamarte's model, people were like, oh, I'm embarrassed.
Which model is this?
The Blood Angels chaplain special guy, who's now like a Death Company upgrade or whatever. Lamarte's Guardian of the Lost.
Okay.
If you can find his old model picture, you look at that and you're embarrassed. You're like, oh, did a fourth grader sculpt this? And that was changed when they eventually got their codex back, and his new model is one of my most favorite chaplain models, period. It just looks like he's going to wreck face. Watch out.
Let's take a look at this guy, because I don't think I've seen the new one.
The new
He's listed as a character, right?
Yeah, he should be. The new Lamarte's is absolutely fantastic, and the old
Lamarte's Guardian of the Lost. Ah, yes. Here he is. Yeah, he does look like someone you don't want to mess with.
Right, and his old model, hold on.
I'm looking.
I got it.
I'm looking.
This isn't that big, but you don't want it too big. It might hurt your eyes. That didn't work. Copper the thingy. And the thing is, it did work. Whoops. I'm not used to the way Skype does things yet again. That's the old.
I think I found
that's
it.
the old Lamarte's to confirm if you found it or not. And you go, what is that?
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
You're like,
I remember him. It looks like he's holding a flagpole.
Yeah, you're like, ugh. What happened? Why are all of his purity seals horizontal? What's going on? And he's just standing there. What? Ugh. So this new one way better. But don't change Ezekiel. His pose, his pose is perfect. His pose is Jedi Knight perfect.
Yes.
Like, boom. What do you want? It's perfect.
Yeah.
Like
it is. It is like it's Qui-Gon Jinn staring down Darth Maul that one time where he's got the blade right up to his face, and you're like, oh, don't move any closer or else you get a shave.
Right? Like Ezekiel's pose, perfect. I like Azrael's pose, but if you changed it, I wouldn't be upset.
But I do like it. He's like, chapter!
What I like about it is like, I have the power! Or Thundercats, ho!
He's got a lot of cheesy 80ness goodness in his pose.
Unforgiven, ho! And just run. But, Dark Angels! Oh!
And then a giant Dark Angel symbol just shows up in the sky.
Shoots out of his Heavenfall blade.
Dark Angels.
Sword of Secrets, give me sight beyond sight.
Sight.
Oh, God.
Did we just seriously turn the Dark Angels into the Thundercats?
We did.
And is it bad that I'm not a problem with that?
No, in fact, if you had a problem, that would be a problem. It fits perfectly. Sword of Secrets, give me sight beyond sight.
Now Elena's singing the Silverhawks theme with the Dark Angels instead.
But I mean, that really fit too good. It fit way too
good. And his pose works.
I know. It fits way too good. But yeah, back to the point. Don't change Ezekiel's pose. Just update his model for more coolness. Now I have a quandary, a query, a question.
Okay.
Do you feel we're getting to the point with modeling technology and posing and detail levels that we're getting to a point where we could actually have the problem of too much detail?
I I don't think there's a problem with too much detail. I would say there's a problem with too many models getting too much detail.
Okay.
Like, if it's like Belial or Azareth the Grim or Abaddon, detail the crap out of them, because they're special characters. They're like supposed to be your figurehead piece.
Right.
But once you start giving, like, the sergeant these detailed ruins and writing on them where you can read a whole Bible story from his armor, then you're starting to get a little crazy.
Right. And I was wondering that because I was looking at the Deathwing kit, and it's by no means the most detailed pack kit. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at it going, I gotta paint a squad of these? Like, especially if you make Deathwing Knights, it's like, oh, what have I bitten off? But, and I was looking, especially with some Forge World stuff. I love Forge World's detail and stuff, but when it's like, hey, check out your squad upgrade for your Imperial Fist, whatever, like, stop, slow your roll. Why does the Sergeant look like he is the Emperor? What's going on here? Like,
Forge World is the one exception to my piece, because I consider Forge World like the Lexus of GW models. You're paying a premium price for a super fancy model.
I agree, but I agree to a point. When you give I love detail. I'm not saying I don't, but when I look at that model and go, how do I paint you? Like, do I do the Bane armor first, or should I do the Bane armor last? And should I do the accent coloring first? Like, that's when you kind of go like, okay, for a Primarch, totally not only acceptable, required.
Yes.
Because it's a Primarch. Like,
yes.
That's why while Lorgar's model isn't my favorite, I just love that he's covered in all this detailed goodness.
Oh yes, he's not the best. Well, him and Angron are like my least favorite, but still the detail.
The thing I love about Angron is that he is probably the most simply detailed Primarch,
and he's always angry.
But if he was more detailed, I'd have a problem with it, because he's the gladiator. He's the one that's going to go in there and rip your face off with somebody else's face. Like, he'll find a way. Like,
he'll grab another Marine and use a Marine as a club, and go, stop hitting your friend. Stop hitting your friend.
He'll angry Marine it, where he just takes him and beats him like a... Yes, exactly. And so he's very brutal, and his model is very brutal, and I appreciate that. And Lorgar's, he's very much the whiny child.
Yep.
Of like,
the Emperor will let me worship him,
so I'm going to go worship something else. But
I'm going to worship something that appreciates my worship.
Exactly. But his model is suitably detailed in all these runic symbols of that.
Yeah.
And it's very fitting. And I would hate to paint him, and I'm never going to paint him because I'm not a big fan of Lorgar or the Word Bearers. But I like that the model is appropriate. And if any Primarch doesn't have crazy detail, you have a problem, because that's Primarch, that's what they deserve. Even like the Primarchs who kind of eschew detail stuff, like the Lion and even Leman Russ, they still suitably detailed out. Yep. So I mean, like the Lion has very suitable runic styled armor. Leman Russ has the hair that we've harped on so many times. Like
the hair, we talked about it too many times. No more hair talk.
No, but like he has the detail in there, and so there's no Primarch. Even Alfarius, well, yes, he likes to be very plain Jane. The way he described in the Forge World book is in a very certain suit of armor, and that suit of armor is super detailed.
Someone actually went, "Oh man, when is Alfarius going to get a model?" And one person who's a huge Alpha Legion fan said, "Who says we didn't already?"
Exactly. Which is very much in fluff with the Alpha Legion, but it's just every Primarch should be crazily detailed out. The one thing I'm curious about
is with Russ's character.
Yeah.
Is it just going to be Russ, or is he going to have his two wolves? And if he does, are they going to be separate models, or are they just going to be display pieces for him? That's one thing I'm curious about.
I think if Forge World's going to do it right, and I will say this right now and I'll defend it, Forge World's never done it wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of producing a model or producing a unit with rules that fit the fluff and are fair. They've never crossed the border, you know what I mean? They're always right where they have to be with stuff. And I give them a lot of credit for that, because that's tough.
That is very tough.
I think if Forge World's going to do it right, and it's a Primarch, so of course they're going to want to do it right, I think they're going to give him, if it is like a dueling thing where you could put him and Magnus together.
That would be so cool.
It would be. But it would also make it...
That'd be $200 down the drain for me.
It would be cool, but at the same time, he didn't fight him with his wolves. So I don't
Yes.
know what they would do with that. But if they make him on a suitably big enough display piece, they would make the wolves be separate models, and chances are they would have rules to be their own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because they did go off and do their thing.
Yeah, and they also fought alongside him, no doubt. And,
Yeah.
And while that's cool, and this is the only instance I'll accept wolves being viable in a sci-fi fighting combat like this with Space Marines everywhere, is because they're the Primarch's wolves.
Yeah.
These are probably the two apex wolves ever to be wolves.
Finley and Kingly or whatever their name
Frecky
is.
and Grekky or something like that.
Frecky and Grekky, that's it.
I think. And, like, they probably have... I don't know too much of the backstory on Frecky and Grekky because I like to forget they exist. But, I don't know if he found them growing up or if they were gifted to him by the Emperor. I have no idea. But those two were something special.
Let's see. I'm going to look it up.
So, even though I find it completely absurd and ridiculous that there are Fenrisian wolf packs and that there are Thunderwolf cavalry, I'll accept it for the purpose of a Primarch because those wolves not only were with the Primarch, but they're pretty big.
Yeah, they are diary wolves.
Of diariness, for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of $200 down the drain, I know everybody's in a hubbub about the supposed Warlord Titan.
Uh-huh.
And I will say this. Don't forget, GW and I believe Apocalypse Reload gave us rules for a Warlord Titan.
Yep.
And picture of it. And size comparison next to a Warhound. And it was artwork, sure. But it's the very boxy look, the look that we attribute to a Warlord. It's been in the comics, the Titan comics. It's been on the cover of the Titanicus novel. It's that huge, very rectangular, boxy-looking Warlord Titan. And that's the only thing that if this proves to be a Warlord, and of course size comparison, it's gigantic, so it's definitely going to be a Warlord model. They're going with a really old school Warlord. And they're basically keeping the Warhound, the Reaver, and the Warlord very old school because the Reaver was kind of not so much a brand new look, it's kind of a rehash of the old school Reaver design, which is fine, and they're trying to keep that kind of domey design, and they're going with the old school Warlord. And his legs look a bit odd to me, and we talked about this. They should be a bit bulkier, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
It's like he skipped leg day. It's like, dude, never skip leg day. But
you never skip leg day.
No. But that's what it looks like a little bit, and I do prefer the boxy, more bipedal look.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I figured out something.
What?
The Primarch's Leman Russ was said to have been raised as an infant by a female Fenrisian wolf and to have kept as his companion two of the largest examples of the species.
Okay, fair enough. See, I'm okay with that because they're the largest examples of the species and they're his.
Yep.
So
that's the dealio with Frecky and Grekky.
So I'm okay with that. But I'm not, I still think Fenrisian wolf packs in your 40k force is dumb. But anyway.
Either way, sorry.
Yeah.
Back to the Warlord.
But whatever it is, the Warlord Titan will be suitably fantastic war machine of destruction, and it's going to be like $2,000.
Yes.
So estimated. It's definitely going to be way more than a Manta. So take that, Manta. You've been debunked as the biggest and baddest thing.
Yeah.
And I will say this for Forge World. Gutsy move. Move, because you're going to make the mold.
You are a shark.
Yeah, you are not a sheep, you are definitely a shark. And you're going to make the molds, and if you do anything but made to order, that's even a gutsier move. Because you're going to make 5 models off the bat, and they're going to sit there, probably. Like, I know people want one, and I would want one, but I'm sorry. I draw the line, not at actually a lot lower for 1 model, but 2. That's it's gonna, no matter what the actual price is gonna be for the Warlord, the price is gonna be too
much,
too high for me to ever consider unless I won the lotto and was a millionaire. Then I'd be like, why not? This should be funny. And then I'll go
take 3.
And then I'll go, you know what? I want 2 of those, 3 Reavers, and 6 Warhounds, and then I'm gonna ship them to a really good commission painter and be like, paint this as a Legion. You got a month. Go. but like,
right, you're rich, you can demand unreasonable things.
Exactly. That's the only time in which I would ever consider it, because or a contest. And if they did a contest, a giveaway, I would seriously compete for it, because I would just love to have that big heavy box of resin just sit there for years, because I'll never be able to actually build it.
So many things.
But like that's like it's honestly. It's ridiculous, the fact that they want to make this, people want this, they're going to make it, and the price point's going to be ridiculous. And I thought it was crazy enough that people have actually bought Mantas.
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy enough. This takes the cake. And the Warlord model has got to be suitably big because people have scratch built it for the appropriate size, and it is, like, huge. It's huge. Like
with the pictures that we've seen, I've guesstimated it's a minimum of 2.5 feet tall.
Oh yeah, it's got to be really around 3 is your best bet, 3 feet
yes.
tall. Which is, how do you game with, like,
how do you transport that thing? That thing will be heavy.
Put it in a suitcase, but a custom suitcase container. But not only that, all right, if you put it on the display base, the display base is going to have to be counted as part of the terrain because it's huge. Like,
yeah.
And like moving it up, like as much as you would like to maneuver, you're basically going to put it on the board and go boom, boom. All right, I'm just going to stand here and blast everything away. There's no way I can move through the terrain on the board. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I can move this thing around the board. Unless we're playing on a desert. Then maybe. But like, oh, this is an urban building combat for Apocalypse? Oh boy. Can we even fit this on the table? Can we? Let's maneuver some of the terrain around.
To be perfectly honest, once this model comes out, I'm going to go to that year's Adepticon just for the chance to see it at the Titan battle game.
Right. And you know,
so I could go, I touched one, yay.
And maybe it's a bit ridiculous to me. Maybe the first 5 will sell right away, because there's got to be at least 5 people in the world, around the world,
who are crazy
enough with enough of the disposable income to do it. But it's got to be made to order. They're gonna waste like a whole month's supply of resin on like one model. So
yeah.
So like. And
which I wouldn't be surprised, because that they have done that before, where they've made things made to order.
Yeah, which is fine, but
heck, the Thunderhawk is made to order.
Oh yeah, but I mean, if they ever build something and keep it on the shelf, that's a gutsy move. Who knows how long? Like, I have a feeling that if they make that model, which not if, but when they make that model, and it shouldn't be around 10 years from when they make it, if you buy one, you're gonna get like number 7. So it's
no, if I ever got lucky enough to get one, and I'm talking like the good old Lord comes down and goes, hey, here's one, type of thing.
Yeah, right.
And I find I will have a heart attack if the number on the certificate is higher than 100.
That is definitely fair.
I'll be like, what?
But seriously, I think like 5 to 10 years down the line, you'll get maybe into the double digits of the number of Titans sold.
Maybe. Congratulations, you got number 10.
What? But yeah, no, I just wanted to bring
and with that, you should get the contact info of all the others, so you can be like, hey, good man.
No, it definitely should. What they should do is take down your email and anything like way to be contacted that will only be given out to other Warlord owners. That way you guys can perhaps have more than one at a game if you live near enough. Maybe do a meetup or at least go, dude, you still building yours? Yeah, and I got it when I was 13 and now I'm 47. But or
Forge World just has like a party. You just sit there all with your box sitting on a table with a cantery of bourbon going, yes.
But they definitely
the resin seems to be getting a lot less release agent on it. Yes.
But there definitely should be an invite-only exclusive owners club for these Titans.
Yeah, they kind of deserve it.
Run by Forge World, that if you purchase it, you're part of this club. Just to say, I spent way too much money on a model. And you know what? The sad thing is, the Warlord is only the second biggest Titan.
Yeah.
The Imperator class is the biggest walking castle Titan. And I'm calling Forge World out here and now that they'll never make one.
Yep.
And the reason I say that is somebody made a scratch-built one, and it's basically over 5 feet tall.
If anyone is, like, wondering, like, a fluff proof to our claim, Mechanicum. Read it. Because there is one, and there's a dude in a Warlord, and he goes, "What the heck is that?"
Like, they basically describe it as a walking mountain. And it's the thing is described as being huge, and it is. And when they did the appropriate scaling, because back when the Reaver Titan came out, this one guy, and I think I have the website somewhere, but he has his own scratch-built Reaver, which is a little bit bulkier, but around the same size. He has a Reaver and he has a Warhound. He made a Warlord, and then he scratch-built an Imperator, or something along those lines. And it's so big that basically it can't move. It's the size of a gaming table in terms of its footprint. It's basically the terrain you battle on. And, like, it's absolutely absurdly big. So, I don't think they'll ever make one. And even if they could and wanted to, it would have to be a one-off that Forge World will just have in there to display for fun.
Yeah.
Because the thing is huge. And what's funny is in the 40K in the museum that they have in the UK, where they have 40K examples, they have the Battle of Terra at the Gates of Terra, and they have that boxier-looking Warlord Titan model made there. So I don't know. I'm still confused why they went with this style of Warlord, but it's whatever. I'll never own it, so I won't care. You know,
doesn't matter to us.
I'll probably never see one either.
Because we are simple folk.
We are simple folk. So there was a question, just to go completely off topic, that I posed a few, last time. That was, what video game character did you either identify with or was your favorite growing up? You have an answer for that yet?
Let's see.
And I have to say, I think some people who gamed and grew up in like the 90s and everything, I think this is a harder question than today. Because I just feel games like that came out then, like the Marios and the Sonics and the Mega Mans and even Metroids and stuff at that time, were much more easy to identify with than like Uncharted or even Prototype or Call of Duty or Halo or stuff like that.
That is a tough question, and I still don't really have an answer, because I can't really think of a character where I was super close to or related to in the video game era.
Right. It is tough, and because for me, as a kid, my first exposure to video gaming was Mario. And back then, there was no internet in people's houses, so I didn't really know Mario was a thing. It was just a game I played. I didn't even care that was the character's name. I just played the game. And then I played Mario 3, and it still was just a game to play, whatever. Rescue Princess Peach, whatever. Great. Whatever. It's only until a little bit after that, once I started getting into like the Super Nintendos and stuff, that I'm like, oh, Marios are definitely a reoccurring thing. Not that I didn't know that, but you didn't really think of it at that time. Because, gaming today and gaming then are two totally different things. So
let's see. I would say if there was any character where I kind of had like any type of connection to, like, emotionally or anything like that, would have been Leon Stenbach from the first Zone of the Enders game.
Okay.
Not like he's really, like, but like, at the end of the day, I felt really, really bad for him, and I wanted him to not have to deal with what he had to deal with.
Right. I gotcha. And then, like, you had Zelda games. And then, like, I played the Nintendo, Zelda game, whatever that one was. I forget the name exactly. But
which one?
The one that had the gold cartridge.
There's been a bunch.
But, like, the one, it was...
For which system?
Nintendo.
Well, the 64...
Nintendo system.
Oh, that's just, I think, called The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, I think. I couldn't remember if it had a subtitle or not.
No, that was the first one that did have a subtitle.
All right, so I played that a lot, and, I got into playing Zelda and stuff. And then, Super Nintendo, played Mario, played a lot of Mega Man X, really liked X and Zero. They're really cool. But for me, because the system I got, that was a system I got and was able to kind of follow from going on with Sega. So for me, ultimately, I'm a Sonic guy at heart. Like, I like Mario's. Mario's cool, but if I had to choose between, because that was the big battle, Mario versus Sonic, I'd pick Sonic. And he was cool. He's the blue blur. I like Mega Man too, and he's the blue bomber, so they kind of have a connection there. But Sonic being the blue blur, the games were fun. And the thing I liked about the games is I started off with Sonic 1. And
a good one.
Sonic 1 was good, but it couldn't spin dash. You can't spin dash in Sonic 1. That's the only flaw to that game. No spin dash. And the special stages were vomit-inducing. But it was really weird, trippy special stage. And then...
But Robotnik's boss theme in that one.
Robotnik's boss theme in Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles was just that's because Sonic 3 and the Sonic and Knuckles meant to be one game, but they couldn't fit on cartridges. So Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the full title of the third Sonic game. All the themes in all those games are great, especially the boss themes. And you had improvements that was something I was like, wow, check this out. Now in 2 we got the spin dash, and all bets were off. You could play as Tails, but nobody wanted to play as Tails.
No one wanted to play with Tails, not even Tails.
And then you had Sonic 3 and Knuckles introduce a third character who is distinctly different. Like Tails could kind of hover, fly a little bit, and Knuckles could definitely glide and crawl. But they're all fast enough. Sonic was a little bit faster, and Sonic could have special uses of certain of the upgrades and whatnot. But it's still improved upon. And my favorite thing about Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is why it's my all-time favorite Sonic game, is the fact that it introduced a save feature. You could save progress and not have to start over when you turned it off. So that was fantastic. But I like the innovation in other games as they came out, and I just really identify with that character the most. But I still like my Marios and my Links, even though the Zelda games were the really confusing ones when you were growing up because you had to get a three-headed. You were not Zelda. You were Link. Because every other game you play Sonic, you play Mario, you play as the Metroid lady, Samus. But you play as Link in Zelda games.
But it's her legend because she knows how to pay for top billing.
Exactly. So that was always kind of funny. But that's my answer for that. And without dragging this on too much longer, I just want to say, you saw the teaser trailer too for Star Wars?
I saw that and the Superman one.
The Batman and Superman one, is it bad to me that I'm like, eh?
It was a meh trailer, but to be honest, I like that suit.
Oh, I like the bat suit, both of them, too.
I think the bat suit was like the best bat suit so far because it looked comic booky without looking like every other Batman suit.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked bulky and like, holy crap, he's gonna kill a man.
It looked good. It looked like it belonged in a comic book series, you're right. And I enjoyed it.
It was the best thing about that trailer.
And what I liked about that trailer was I liked Batman. He wasn't going for crazy Christopher Nolan themed Batman voice, but he was definitely trying to change his voice a little bit.
That robotic-y voice.
Yeah. And I like, so far, what I've seen of the Batfleck. So
I don't mind Batfleck.
I don't either.
He doesn't bother me.
It never bothered me to begin with, but I'm just a little bit more excited for his role. I just wish it was a genuine Batman film. You know, I wish that this would have been the sequel to a Batman film. You know what I mean?
It seems like they are going a little too crazy with this film and banking way too much on it.
Exactly. I would have liked to see not so much a Batman origin story per se, but just a Batman solo film first, just to establish what this Batman is going to be like. Because I feel people are expecting certain things.
A lot of the characters in this should not be premiering in a team-up film.
Exactly.
Like Aquaman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's just too much. But it was cool, but definitely dwarfed by the Star Wars trailer.
Yes.
I love that BB-8 was a practical effect.
Yes, that is really cool.
I was really surprised because I watched a video, and it didn't have any sound on the video, but I watched a video of it rolling across stage. You know, they brought it out and everything, and I'm just looking at it going, what is this sorcery? But, because he's a ball, and there's a head on the ball, and the head doesn't...
It's an R2 head on a ball.
And it rolls around, and it was really... The fact that it's practical made me so happy, but... Because practical effects are back, and the one thing about the original trilogy versus the episodes 1, 2, and 3, and I'm not saying it's the one thing that makes it better than the prequels, but the one thing that you can definitely cite, and you can see it in some of, especially episode 1, and even the other ones, anything that's practical looks so good in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And it just makes you get lost in it easier. Now, clearly, what people are saying is an upside-down Executor Star Destroyer, which would be awesome if it is.
What?
When the Millennium Falcon flies into the crash.
Oh, the crash Star Destroyer.
Yeah, people are thinking that's an upside-down Executor.
I don't think so.
What they showed when they pointed stuff out, not the one that's crashing, you can clearly tell, but the one that looks upside down. They make a pretty convincing argument when they did the side-by-side comparison of what they're pointing out.
Mm.
It would just be cool for the sake of being cool. It doesn't matter.
It would be.
But, like, clearly that's not practical, obviously. You're not going to build
Yep.
an executor to have a fake Millennium Falcon fly through. But the fact that you have that as a practical, and the fact that I can't wait, not so much for the movie, of course. And I don't know.
Yeah, that movie can't get here fast enough. I'm sorry.
And I don't know what it is. I've tried thinking about it. I can't explain what it is about Star Wars that makes me feel the way I do when I see the trailers and I watch the movies. It's all. I'll have to say, because I'm not a very religious person, but I imagine it's like a religious experience. As cliche and as stupid as that sounds, the feeling you get from watching that and seeing the trailers, it's my religion, essentially. And, like, I can't wait for the movie to come out. I absolutely can't wait to see the trailer on the big screen.
Oh, yes. Age of Ultron, man.
Like, I can't wait to see that trailer. Like, that's going to be a great movie for sure. But I really can't wait to see a Star Wars trailer on the big screen. Because that's when the magic starts. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Dude, when Han says Chewie, we're home, you're just like, yeah!
Oh, yeah, all things of that film. And what I love about it is they revealed the lightsaber that a lot of people got really mad about, but really shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And then they owned it in this one. They had it there, but they didn't make a big show of it. He just used it like normal. They owned it, and I like that.
Yeah.
And although I will say, I'm like, is that Revan? It looked a lot like Revan. But in terms of the costume design, which isn't a bad thing. That's a cool costume.
I'm not a fan of Revan, but I like this look of this guy.
I like the costuming. So, I mean, everything about this just screams yes. Like, I was watching that entire trailer, and I was like, I was pumped from the time it's, like, from the moment you hear Luke saying that line. You know, the Force is strong in my family.
Oh, goodbye, family.
And then you see the burnt-up Darth Vader helmet. I'm like, oh, my God!
Oh my God! And then he gives Leia the lightsaber.
I'm just like, oh man! And it just like, I'm sure all the you know what's weird? Only Star Wars nerd fans like us can understand what the other person's saying and experiencing about the movies. And it's so hard to describe it to somebody else. But I get goosebumps thinking about this trailer on the big screen and thinking about this movie on the big screen, because Star Wars, the silver screen is its home, and I need to see it in its home again. And this is. I only wish I had Stormtrooper armor finished for this. Like, and it's kind of a goal to get really super in shape so I'm not a fat Stormtrooper and wear Stormtrooper armor to this. And just the reveals of the different type of troopers they have in this film, and the Stormtrooper armor. You know, you have diehard old school fans like, it's not the original armor, so it's sucky. I like it, and it represents like evolution of what the armor would do and how it would change and adapt over time. It's just everything.
And the plot, that rumor that I heard, sounds really, really awesome.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much on the rumor of the plot, but just what you saw in the trailer, I'm just like, oh my God, stuff's happening. Stuff's happening. Like,
it's just like, oh man, look at that thing! Oh man, look at that thing!
It was all sorts of cool, and the fact that, because BB-8, I'll be honest, when I first saw him, I was, whoa, what's that? A circular droid? Not that I'm like was against it, but I'm like, oh, it's probably something for just to be cheesy CG goodness, you know, like, oh, look at that CGI, like, not like they're Jar Jar Binks, but at the same level of going, oh, it's probably just to like show off CGI technology. So I didn't give him too much credit. But then I found out he was a practical effect, and I instantly became a fan of BB-8 because it's practical. It's there. It's a thing. It's there when
you can touch him.
Like if it's talking to R2 in a movie, the scene, it's actually there talking to the actual R2 in that scene. I mean, come on, it's great.
JJ gave us something that we could see and touch.
But it's just, and it's something that is a hook for this film, you know. Unfortunately, it was Jar Jar in the prequels.
Yep.
Jar Jar was the thing that you could tie that to, and that was kind of not the big thing that they were pushing, obviously, but that was the thing, was Jar Jar. We had new characters, but that was your new, like, wow thing. And it was unfortunate because it was Jar Jar.
Yep.
BB-8 is this movie's much better Jar Jar, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And that makes
he looks awesome.
That makes me happy. And then you have, like, that mechanical hand that, you know, touches, you know, is, like, resting on R2 in that one scene that is very much implied to be Luke. And you're like, oh, my God, what's going on here?
Luke!
It's just, I can't wait. I've said the same thing, like, probably 100 times in the past 2 minutes, but I can't wait. I'm sure, Fearless Gamers, if you're a Star Wars nerd like we are, I hope you
let
feel
us know in the comments.
I hope you feel the same way, because this, like, I'm not one to try and overhype things for the purpose of overhyping, but even if the film was just what we saw in the trailers and like 20 extra minutes of stuff and this lightsaber fight, and it was only like a half-hour film, I'd love it because it just looks
awesome.
good. Everything's looking good, and I don't even mind that they're back on Tatooine. I'm assuming it's Tatooine, because why wouldn't
I don't think it's Tatooine.
You don't think that desert planet is Tatooine?
No, I honestly don't.
Well, you're a braver man than I.
I'm hoping that JJ is going, there's more than just one desert planet called aside from Tatooine.
It's true. I wouldn't mind them if there was a rehash in Tatooine. That'd be fine. I
wouldn't mind it.
It's tradition at this point.
But I'm not thinking it's Tatooine.
It basically is tradition at this point. The only movie that Tatooine wasn't in was, what, Episode 5?
Yeah. No. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, if it's not there, I'll be shocked. But I have to say, and if it is Tatooine, I hope to see one of these. One of my favorite things to come out of Star Wars that isn't like super plot related or character driven are the sand crawlers from the Jawa. The Jawa's big sand crawlers.
Yeah.
I love those things. I don't know why. When I see one, I'm like, that's amazing.
They look so neat, and they look believable. Like, I could foresee us building one of those.
Right. I mean, it just looks... I don't know what it is, but I remember as a kid, when I first saw Episode 4, the sandcrawler just stuck out of my mind, and I just love the sandcrawler. And every time you get to see one, I'm like, it's a sandcrawler. It should totally have weapons on it. I don't know why it doesn't, but it's a sandcrawler. Especially when you consider what they are.
Yeah.
Desert pirates is what the Jawa's thieves are.
Basically are.
You think they'd have, like, defensive turrets or something on it. Especially...
That just goes...
You can't hide it exactly, and you can't exactly outrun things. So
chances are, that's why no one attacks it, because they're like, oh, crap, we don't know what the heck's on that thing. Because we don't know.
It's true, but I love them. So I'm hoping to see one in Episode 7 if they're on Tatooine. Or... maybe they are on other desert planets, and maybe Jawas are not just not just solely on Tatooine.
Yeah, we don't know if they're a native species to Tatooine or not.
Or exclusive to it. And just like the Tuskens, technically in the fluff, are on multiple planets.
Yeah, well, the fluff's kind of ripped apart now.
I mean, in the past and everything. Like, it's not just what's in the future. Like, the Tusken Raiders are implied not to be exclusive to Tatooine. They're just that's like where you would definitely be able to encounter one. Is on Tatooine, and who knows if that has been completely 100% 180. But even still, I want to see what they're on. I want to see what's around. I want to experience the setting of Star Wars, and I just can't wait. I just can't wait for the movie, and more importantly for me is I can't wait to get that awe-inspiring moment. Even though I've seen the trailer on my computer, to see it on the big screen, the trailer, it's just like a precursor to awesomeness. And I felt the same way for Episodes 1, 2, and 3. And you know what? Overall, for me, Episode 3 is like cheap pizza. It's still pizza, and it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I liked it. I like all three of them.
I liked all three. I like the prequel. I mean, I will say this. I enjoyed the original more, but I like the prequel.
If you're telling me, which one's better, by far the originals are better, but I'm not going to say the prequels were bad. They're not good, but they're not bad.
I'm going to say this, and I said this before, kind of just in a group hangout a while ago in a galaxy far, far away, but I'm going to put it as this. The prequels are what the originals would have been like if they were produced in that time period. That was the time. What they did with Episodes 1, 2, and 3 in terms of shooting it, effects, whatever else, even kind of content in there, is reflective of the time period, for sure.
Yep.
And if Episodes 4, 5, and 6 came out at that exact time, it would be something very similar. And they're from two different eras of filming and two different eras of being of society and culture references that you can make at all. So sure, it's definitely going to be different. 4, 5, and 6 will always hold a higher place in my heart than Episodes 1, 2, and 3. Episode 5 is one of my favorite movies of all time. So
my favorite is 6, but I always will but I understand and agree with everyone that 5 is the best.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, not just favorite Star Wars, one of my favorite movies, period, is Episode 5.
So good in plot.
It's done so well, and so that right there, my own personal bias will always make the originals more higher up than the prequels. But I enjoyed the prequels. I did. I felt, if only they edited the final fight scene in Episode 3 better, it would have instantly shot that movie up a bit higher for me than where it's at now. Especially the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the whole opening sequence of rescuing Palpatine was so good. Cheesiness of R2 aside, especially the leading up to them getting on the ship.
Yeah.
That whole intro scene where, like, that probably would have been the entire special effects budget for most of the movies. Was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I can't wait. You know what's funny? When I saw that, I'm like, man, they should make a miniature game for Star Wars. And I'm like, all right, they kind of have one with the plane. You know, not the planes, but the ship.
Well, now they do.
Yeah.
Well, they have two now. They have Armada, which is like Star Destroyers versus Corellian vessels, and then they've got X-Wing.
Yeah, but I was looking at that. I was like, man, they gotta make. And then I was like, man, they should make an MMO. Wait a minute.
Yes, we don't talk about the MMO.
But like, it got me wanting more Star Wars again. And episodes 1, 2, and 3, while I enjoyed it, while I love seeing their stuff on the big screen, and especially the trailers in theaters and seeing the movies in theaters, this has. I don't know what it is. Maybe because of the direction they're going, but this has me even more hyped than what I was for the prequels. So, it's fantastic, and no other movie series has done this to me. I like watching my Marvel movies, but I'm sorry, the feeling and the hype I get pales in comparison to Star Wars.
Oh, every time.
And I don't know why. Like, if somebody said, describe it to me, I'd be like, it's good.
Watch it.
Yeah.
That's it. We'll describe it. We'll watch it.
We'll watch it. And then if you watch it and you go, that was terrible, I might punch you in the face. No, I wouldn't, but,
we would be talking to you anymore.
Right. I did have one instance where I almost wanted to, like, call a person out. And it was when I was in college on the food line, to buy food, because dorming there, you got to get your foods.
Yep.
And somebody was I don't know why, I think because it was after... Was it after Episode 3 came out? It had to have been. I don't know why, but Star Wars came out. And they were talking. And they were like, yeah, so I was watching, Episodes 1, 2, and 3, and I was watching 4, 5, and 6, and they're just terrible. I'm like, I wanted to go, get out. Not because I'm that fanboy defending, but and the justification he gave was so stupid. It's like, yeah, the effects weren't that good, and I felt the acting was kind of like forced. And I'm like, did we watch the same Episode 4? Like, did we watch the same Episode 4? It's like, what do you mean the effects weren't good? They're still heralded as really good effects, lightsabers aside. Today, and it was that was the only time I wanted to sit down and talk with the person and be like, so you made some terrible life choices, son.
Let me. I need to stumble you back on the right path, son.
But I was more curious as to. I really wanted to. I was done. I got my food and I had to leave. But I really wanted to I wanted to have a dissertation with this person. Like, so describe in great detail why you feel this wrong way. But
so tell me, my son, what troubles you?
Right? But that was the only...
Now I'm just seeing you hanging out with the Stark Lord at a cafeteria table. It's like, I'm going to go over and talk to him. I'm serious. No, he's right. I'm going to go over and talk to him. And Stark Lord was like, dude, let it go. No. Someone's got to go talk to this man.
But it was just so, honestly, I didn't expect that conversation to happen. And the way they were talking about it, and what they were saying, I can't remember everything because I blocked it from my mind mostly, but it was just, I was flabbergasted, literally flabbergasted at what they were saying, because it's not the first time I've heard this. But it's like what he was saying was clearly wrong, not wrong, but clearly not what he should be saying, because what he's saying would have been all sorts of defense for the originals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was basically saying what everybody hails the originals for, but saying it for the prequels, as if he was told something incorrect and was really confused what he was watching. So I don't know. It was the only time I ever got to that nerd ragey type of thing over Star Wars, because I really don't. I'm more like, I like to be, Zen whatever, man. I like to be very much like Tron Legacy. You're messing with my Zen thing. I like to be that with Star Wars, because I get there are plenty of people out there in the world who just won't get the Star Wars bug.
Yep.
I've seen it. I feel sad for those souls, but I've seen it. And that's why I find it so hard to describe, because I feel like I can make you watch it, but you might still not understand.
True.
Yeah.
True. Now, before we clock out for the day, I just want to ask one more thing. One more thing!
1 minute, little thing.
Before we go off for the day, and that is the rumored hint of the Assassins board game, with models that supposedly are going to, once the limited run is out, become new Assassin models in 40K. And it seems very plausible because in the White Dwarf, this week's White Dwarf, the paint guide tip is next week highlighting black, which means, oh, so these are unpainted models.
Well, not unpainted, but
unpainted.
Which, it could be, to be fair, it could be Black Templars, it could be Raven Guard, it could be Iron Hands, but yeah, no, it's definitely, that would be a nice thing for, like, doing Assassins, because, well, they wear black jumpsuits.
Yep.
Now, I think, really, that they'll fit way better in a board game than in any actual regular 40K game.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It's hard to be an assassin and singular unit doing your thing, assassinate, in a full-on battlefield war, because things are just going to gun you down every time.
Yep.
So what's your question?
It's just, what do you think?
Oh.
Thoughts,
concerns,
dreams, hopes, ambitions, aspirations.
And, thoughts.
Opinions.
Thoughts,
concerns.
Dreams, aspirations, observance, and thoughts. You said thoughts twice. Be quiet, you.
Maybe.
Maybe. But definitely let us know what you think of that. Would you be down for it?
Yes.
Because, what is it? It was... Space Hulk came after Dreadfleet, right?
Well, Space Hulk came first, then Space Hulk went away. Dreadfleet came out, and then Space Hulk came back.
Okay, no, I wasn't sure if the first release of the Space Hulk game that they re-released was before or after Dreadfleet.
I believe Dreadfleet came in the middle.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So, you have the success of Space Hulk and the overall considered flop of Dreadfleet. What do you think about this? Do you think it'll work? Are you concerned? Or do you just want lightsabers? Let us know.
And are you excited? I'm actually fairly excited because depending on how these models look, I probably plan on picking this up, and it will mainly just for the models so I can finally play Assassins.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
So, that is all for now, then. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
Dan's a wild card.
Saying, may the Force be with you.
Indeed.